Hello all. Today we are going to see an exercise where you have to load data from your AWS S3 bucket to your AWS relational database service of your choice, that is MySql database or Oracle DB or Microsoft SQL Server databases. So we are going to quickly go through how to create S3 bucket, how to create RDS database, and how to upload files to your S3 bucket, and how to load data from S3 bucket to your RDS. So now we will quickly go through how to create an RDS database. So here you can see in the recently visited there is RDS, but you can also search it from here. So we'll just click on RDS. So here you are opening the RDS. AWS is redirecting to our RDS dashboard. Yeah, and here you can see already there is one instance running. So, and here you have two options under create database, that is restore from S3 and create database. So we are going to see how to create a database. So this is just loading, so we'll just wait, and this is now ready. We are going to choose a standard create, and we are being given multiple options how to choose which type of database we want. So since we are going to see how to load data from S3 to RDS database, you can go for a simple one, that is for just to know that you have to gain experience. So this is, we are going to select MySql database, or you can also go with Amazon Aurora. Amazon Aurora has its own flavors of MySql and Postgre. So here we have selected MySql and here you can see the edition is MySql, and the version that we are able to see is 8.0.28. And the most important thing here in templates is that you need to choose a free tier, because if you don't choose free tier, then you will be expected to get some billing from AWS, which we don't want to do when we are learning things. And we can give the name of our database, and we can give MyDB learning, then username and admin name. You can also give admin password. And from the DB instances, this is a very important step. You by default it will be showing as T3. However, you need to go and select T2 micro, because T2 micro is the only one that is included in the free tier. Storage and all, we will be just going with whatever that's been given to us. Enable auto scaling, we don't need it because you're really not going to load a lot of data into this. Availability and durability, we'll just leave it as it is. And in connectivity, we will get by default a VPC. We will go with the default VPC that AWS is giving us. And here you can also see that after a database is created, you can't change its VPC. So make sure that if you are going for a VPC other than default, so this is where you have to do it. So I'm going to go with the default VPC of my own that is given to me by AWS. So I'm going to select default VPC. And in the subnet group, default VPC subnet group, allow public access, you need to enable it. Yes, only then you will be able to connect to your RDS database from your local machine. In the VPC security group, you can just go with choosing existing, and you can just do select default. And then we have additional configuration, that is you are going to do the database port. By default, MySql database runs on 3306, so we are going to use the same. Password authentication, estimated monthly cost, etc. Additional configuration, we need not do anything here. Enable automated backups, you can just leave it as it is. Yeah, so after that you just have to click on create database. When you do create database, a database like this will be created to this. So here you can see we already have one database running, that is this database 1, and we are going to see what's there in it. So when you create a database, you are going to get an endpoint. This is the URL for you to connect to your database from your local machine. In order for you to connect a database from your local machine, you need to also have a security group inside your VPC, that is virtual private cloud. So we are going to see what is a security group. So if you open a security group, you will see that we already have one security group created, and the name of the security group is RDS security group, and which is inside a VPC called 8DDB7. So this is the same VPC under which our RDS is already there. So that is 8DDB7. So now we are going to see what is there in this security group, what is the security group, and what does it do. So mainly the main functionality of a security group is that it enables you to set the inbound and outbound rules for your AWS resources, that is an EC2 instance, an RDS database, and data warehouse, etc. So first, in the inbound rules, we are going to see what all type of traffic we want to allow. So here as you can see in my security group, I have enabled all traffic, all TCP, and all HTTP. And if you go to edit inbound rules, you will be further able to see. You just have to select all TCP or all traffic and just do source anywhere from IPv4, and then just click on save rules, and your inbound rules will be set. Similarly, we also have the outbound rules. In the outbound rules, you can see we have similarly HTTP, all traffic, and all TCP. And from here you can do edit. So this is where you have to set all traffic and save the rules. And once this security group is created, you will be able to connect to this particular database from your local machine. So since this is a MySql database, here you can see the engine is MySql community, and the region is EU Central 1C, and the class is dbt2 micro. So for this MySql database, I am going to use MySql Workbench to connect from my local machine after creating my security group. So we are going to simply switch to our MySql database, and in database, if you see manage connections, I already have my database saved, and here you can see this is the same endpoint name that AWS was showing us. So that is this is the same endpoint that we are going to use, port 3300, username is admin, password is whatever we set during creating the database. And after that, if you do test connection, it will say success. And after that, we just created one database into this database, this MySql database, that is sales repo, and we have just couple of tables, that is event sales. Soon we are going to see how to load data into these tables, and how to explore the data in these tables. So these are the first two steps, that is how to create a MySql database using Amazon RDS, and how to connect an AWS RDS to your local machine. Now the next thing is we are going to see create an S3 bucket, load data from your local machine to S3 bucket. So let's quickly start going through what is there in the S3 buckets. Back to Amazon console. So we already have S3 in my recently visited. You can directly go from here, or if you're doing it for the first time, just do S3. Amazon AWS will give you the search results. In the services, we have scalable storage in the cloud. We are going to select S3 bucket. In the S3 bucket, you are going to do create bucket. When you are doing create bucket, you just have to give the bucket name. I just give a sample name. Make sure that you are selecting the region where you are located, so that you are always in not so far from your AWS region. In the ACLs, we'll go for ACLs disabled recommended. For this is important step here, for block all public access, you have to unselect it to ensure that you are able to move data from your S3 bucket to various places. Bucket versioning disable, for now you can just leave it as it is, and server side encryption you can set it as disabled, and in the advanced settings, object log, etc., you can just set it as disabled, and straight away go and click on this orange button, create bucket. And once you do that create bucket, you will get a bucket created like this, that is this sales landing bucket. This is the bucket that I have created previously, and it's in the Frankfurt region. Objects can be public, okay, because we have set enable public access. And if you just open this bucket, we already have couple of files uploaded into this bucket. So these are the text files that are having some sample data. Then the same data we are going to load into our Amazon RDS MySql database. So here we have seen how to create an S3 bucket and how to upload a file. So when you click upload button, you can get add files button, and when you do add files button, you will get pictures and you can just load files. So this is about that, and simply you can do upload files to your S3 bucket, and this is how the files would appear and the size, etc. So now we have seen how to create an S3 bucket and how to upload files to an S3 bucket. So the next thing what we are going to see is that load data to S3 bucket, that is uploading the files to S3 bucket, that is already done. And now the final step, we are going to see how to load data from S3 bucket to AWS RDS MySql database. For this particular use case, we are going to use the Amazon Glue console. So Amazon Glue is a serverless data integration. This is very important. We are talking about data integration. That means how you are building integrations to load your data from one system to another system. And here you, in the left side section, you can see the menu, that is data catalog, and the ETL, that is AWS Glue Studio, jobs, legacy, etc. Now if you just go to click on jobs, it will load a Glue Studio. This is a new feature in Amazon which is like very super user friendly, and you can see I already have 2 jobs created here. We will quickly see very soon like what are these jobs, what these jobs are doing. But before that, you need to do certain connections in your AWS Glue. So first we are going to go through connections. So what is a connection? In connections, we are already having a connection called MyRDS connection. So if you just click here, you will be able to see, okay, now here it is showing different configuration things in your database. So we are saying it's a JDBC, and we are setting that MySql, this is our database name, RDS database name, and then the DB name. VPC ID, we have seen VPC earlier when we are creating our RDS database, and the subnet which the VPC is having, security groups, and require SSL connection, we are setting it as false. Description, username, created, and last modified. And here you have to do edit for you to actually able to see. We just gave the connection name. Now this is the most important step. Now in this step, what we are doing means we are just setting the JDBC URL name. This particular JDBC URL name, you can just get it from your RDS database. That is, see, this is the database name that we want, and we are changing it to the JDBC format. So what is that JDBC format? This is like you're going to do JDBC MySql, set it like this /database. For more information, you can go click on working with connection. You will be redirected here, and AWS Glue connection properties. In AWS Glue connection properties, JDBC connection properties. In JDBC connection properties, if we want to connect to Amazon RDS MySql, this is our case, and you can see the URL syntax how to connect. We are just using the same thing here. That is here. We have the username, password, the VPC, and the subnet we have created, and the security groups. We are just selecting all the security groups that we have, and then we are going to do click next. We are going to see everything. We are going to just do click finish, and then your connection will be created. After you click on your connection, if you are going to do what means you are going to create a crawler. Now what is a crawler? What a crawler does means it connects to a data store, that is your database, processes through prioritized list of classifiers to determine the schema of your data, and then creates metadata tables in your data catalog. So what basically it means that it is a crawler. And what does a crawler do? It crawls to the system that you are connecting your crawler to. That means here we are telling our crawler to connect to a database and go through what is there inside that database. Definitely inside a database we will have tables. So it will go through those tables, it will get the schema of those tables, and it will set that table schema to our database that we just created. So here you can see total added is 1 that it is showing, and this is our crawler name. After that, in the actions you can do edit crawler or you can do add crawler. When you are doing add crawler, you have to give crawler name, crawler source type, data source, IAM role, schedule, output, review, etc. We are going to see these properties with one of our existing crawler, that is this one. So in the actions we are going to do edit crawler. In the edit crawler, the crawler name is MyRDS crawler. It is a data store. It is not existing catalog tables. It is the data store, and repeat crawls to S3 data stores. But since this is the RDS, this we will just go with whatever the setting that AWS is showing for S3 bucket, because we are not interested in S3. We are only crawling our database. Then we are going to do click next and choose a data store. We have selected a JDBC, and in connection we are selecting my RDS connection. Where is this my RDS connection is coming from? Here if you see, if you just click on connections, this is that RDS connection that it is showing here to us. And include path, we are what we are setting means the name of our database / wildcard. When we put this wildcard, what it will do means it will crawl through all the things that are there inside this database. It could be tables, it could be views, all those things it will crawl. And then we are going to exclude patterns is there. We did not do anything here. Just click next. Add another data store. No, we are just gonna click next. We don't have any another data node to add here, so that is in the previous step. So we just clicking no, and then we are just doing next. And in the IAM role, we just created Glue RDS connection role. Now what is an IAM role? An IAM role allows the crawler to run and access your Amazon S3 data stores. By default, all your RDS will also be backed up in S3. So that's the reason you have to create an IAM role. So now we just go to IAM console. In the IAM console, you have to click on create IAM role. What is IAM? Identity and access management. And here you can see we are already having Glue RDS connection role. But for example, by default you will have AWS service role for RDS. If you just click on here, you already have it, so we will not do that. We'll just click on create role. When we click on create role, we are going to select what type we want. Allows AWS services like EC2, Lambda and others to perform actions in this account. We are going to select AWS service. In the use case, we are going to select Glue, AWS Glue. Glue. So we are going to just choose Glue, and then we are going to click next. And here you are going to select couple of things that are needed for your Glue. That is, first we are going to see S3. We will just go through what all we just wanted in our IAM role. So for that purpose, we'll just check what is the existing roles that we have for our existing IAM. So if you open this thing here, you will be able to see what all properties we have. We have Amazon RDS full access, Amazon EC2 full access, Amazon S3 full access, Amazon Glue console, SageMaker notebook full access, Amazon Glue console full access. If you want to do, you can just select this, go to your previous page where you are creating, just do this and paste it and just search. You will get this. You select, similarly you select Amazon S3 full access, for example. You select this and come back here and put it here, and then search, like you just remove the RDS and then you will get S3 full access. You select this thing, and here you can see selected 2 of 750. Okay, so like this you will select, then set permissions, create role without a permissions boundary, and then you are going to click next. In the next, you are going to give name to your AWS role, IAM role, description, and here you will see the trusted entities in the format JSON, and here you will see the permissions, policy summary, you will see different policies. And if you want tags, like Amazon by default have tags for you to actually able to relate back when you come back what exactly is this, and then you are going to click role. When you do click role, you will be able to see your role created like this. So this is that role. After you have created your role, you just have to come back here. You have to select the role that you have created and then just click next, and then frequency you have to do run on demand, not every time. And database name sales repo, grouping behavior for S3 optional, configuration optional. We are not doing anything with S3 or configuration, so we are going to leave as it is. We are going to just select our database which Amazon is showing us from the DB connections which it had retrieved. Then we are just going to click next, and we are just going to see the summary what we have chosen, and then just click on finish, and then your crawler will be created. After your crawler is created, the first thing that you would want to do is that run the crawler. When you just click on run the crawler, what it will do means it is saying it's starting. After some minutes it will do like crawling, and then the crawler will finish. After that it will try to find the tables that are there inside our RDS database, that is sales report database. Now for us to actually see, you can actually go back to databases, you select your database, and here you can see tables in sales report DB. If you click on this particular link, here you will be able to see the different tables. Now from where did these tables come? These tables have actually come from our SQL Server Workbench. So sales event, sales event. The crawler has connected to this sales report DB, which is inside our MySql Amazon RDS. Inside that it has crawled through the tables section, and it has discovered 3 tables. That is the reason we are able to see these 3 tables. Now if you just click any one of these tables name, you will see all the details, the connection, the location, database name, name of the table, etc. And you can also see the schema of the table, what is the column names, what is the data type that we have for these columns in this particular in this particular table. Like for example, if you see events, in the events we have event ID, venue ID, cat ID, date ID, event name, and start name. And Amazon Glue is actually showing the same things here. Perfect. So now what we just did is that, let's do a summary of what we did. We just, in the connections, we created a database connection, and after creating a database connection, we mapped a crawler to our database. And what this crawler does is that this crawler will parse through our database, and it will identify the different schemas, that is tables, views, etc., and it will show you it in our tables section inside our database. So these are our tables which the crawler has discovered. So now we have our database connection set up in AWS Glue. Be careful when you are doing this. This can be a bit tricky, so always ensure that you are doing every step very carefully as mentioned in this video. So now let's go back to our AWS Glue Studio. This is the new cool feature for you to actually load data from one point to another point, one source to another source. Like you are building integrations for loading your data from one system to another system. And here you can see jobs, create a job, which type of job you want, visual with source and target. Start with a source, apply mapping, transform, and target. So this is what basically it does: one source, one transformation, one target. And we have visual with blank canvas, author using an interactive visual interface, and Spark script editor. Here you can use PySpark to load your data, like you can do your PyScript scripting, and you have the Python shell where you can load data using your Python shell script. So we are just going with the visual with the source and target. And in the starting, what did we see? We wanted to load from our S3 bucket. From S3 bucket we want to load to our database. What is our database? Amazon RDS. In Amazon RDS, what is our DB type? MySql database. So from S3 bucket to MySql source and target. Okay, and then we are going to select create. So when we click on create, we have our S3, we have our apply mapping, we have our RDS database. So now in S3 bucket here, you can actually, let's just close this for our convenience. And you can see data catalog table or S3. I want my S3 location. I'm gonna browse S3 landing bucket, events.txt, choose the file that we want, recursive, we just keep it delimiter. What is the delimiter that we want? So in order for us to actually decide what is a delimiter, you have to go check what is there in your files, that is events.txt. This particular file, the delimiter is a pipeline, as you are able to see it here. I just bring it up here. This is the pipeline delimiter. So we are going to use the pipe delimiter. First line contains column headers, it does not contain, we have to unselect it. Advanced options, schema inference, let AWS Glue Studio automatically load a sample file. No, choose a sample file. I'm going to explicitly specify which file I want to show in my sampling. Events.txt, I'm gonna select, I'm gonna choose, and basically we are just selecting the same file that we are for previewing the data. Okay. Output schema, we're gonna just let it as it is, and in the data preview, if you see here, some nodes are incomplete for you to preview the data. What do you mean by this? That means you need to set up all the steps, all the nodes in your job for you to able to see the data. So we have our S3 bucket, we have the mapping, everything done. Next is the apply mapping. Okay, target column name, we're just going to keep the same for now. Output schema, data preview, we just set it as it is. Oops, we're going to just bring it back to the focus. Yeah, now it's good. And this is the last node which has not been set up. So let's set this up. Now we want to load data to our target, which is a MySql database. Now in a MySql database, you just click refresh, you will be able to see sales repo. From where are you getting this sales repo? That's correct, you guessed it correct. This is from the AWS Glue databases, the sales repo, which we created using the connections. Those are same sales repo we are going to select. And similarly the crawler has crawled some tables, and these are those tables. And let's see what happened. Yeah, the crawler is ready and it has crawled tables for us, and these are the tables that we can see here. So here we are going to choose whichever the data. Since it's an events file, we are going to select events. Output schema, it will be retrieving from what the crawler has fetched from the database. So now all the nodes are done. Now let's go back to S3 bucket. Output schema is fine. We are telling S3 to load data from events.txt file. Delimiter is a pipeline. Now let's go to data preview. We are going to just click start data preview. This is where the IAM role you have to select for you to be able to do your preview the data. Now why do you need to select an IAM role? An IAM role allows your AWS services to load data from different AWS types, that is an S3 bucket or an EC2 instance or an RDS database, etc. That is why you need an identity and access management role. I have created my role. I'm going to click confirm, and here you can see starting up data preview. This may take few seconds, it will actually take some time, so let's just wait for us to get the data loaded here. It will take just some time, so we just have to be patient enough. Okay, now the status has changed, it is showing as 0%. So let's see, it is showing 100% complete. it's almost any time now, so get ready to see some magic. Perfect. And now here you can see we have our data. So, and you can see the last column also, that is this, the date column. And perfect. So now in this particular integration we are loading the data from S3 bucket and we are able to see this data. Now we are going to do apply transform. In the target key you are going to change the column names that is mentioned here in the output schema. The first one event id, then date id, cat id, start time, etc, etc. You have to map it accordingly. Set the data type of the column and output schema will be set. And then you can see the data preview here like this. I mean, here it's showing null because it's not long, it's int actually. int 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 and output schema in the data preview. Okay, it's again running. Okay, it's again showing null values. Yeah, that's because here the data type is showing it as long, so you need to change that for you to be able to see this. So yeah, we already have a job similar like this that is created. We'll quickly go through the properties to quickly know what exactly is happening. So we're gonna just go back here, we're gonna see the jobs, and here we have already 2 jobs and that have been run on AWS Glue 3.0. so we were seeing events, so let's see events and the S3 bucket. Yes, perfect. We are loading events and the output schema is everything is string. And you can do your data preview, confirm, and here we just have to wait for some time for the data to come. So most important thing is that this whole job, this whole data integration from one system to another, it's not there in any of your local system, in any of your office servers, anywhere as such. It is directly there in your AWS cloud in your region. So this job is always there, it's high availability. So this is one advantage of AWS. That means you have your jobs always on the cloud and you can set schedules, you can run the jobs, everything AWS is doing it for us. Let's let's just wait for a couple of more minutes and then we will see. 100% complete anytime now. Perfect. And as you can see here, the data is getting loaded and here we have 6 columns. Let's see, 6 columns. This is the 6th column, it's the date column. We have the data in the S3 node, in the first node. In the second node, yes, we can just give the target key name and the data type. Output schema will be exactly as it is. That means we are just doing transforming the data from our file to our destination. So this is where you got to transform the data. And in the data preview, as you can see, this is the first column is the event id, venue id, cat id, fourth column is the date id, last column, the fifth column is the event name, and the last column is the event date, when that event has actually occurred. And how you are telling which column is which one, that you are telling it here. I want the column 0 to be event id, column 1 to be venue id. This is how you set, then your output schema will be generated and then you can see your data preview. And then at the end, the same thing, because it's a DB node, you will not be able to see the preview. Don't worry, don't afraid that you are not able to see data preview in the last step. As long as you are able to see the data preview perfectly in your transform step, rest assured, and your data will definitely come to your database. Now when everything is done, just click on run. When you click on run, you will be redirected to the runs page, and here you can see I have a run succeeded, and it took around 52 seconds to load data. And after that data is loaded, it will, when the crawler is when the AWS Glue job is perfectly run, like it is success, like how it is showing here success. I mean, I did have some failed steps also, so yes, you will see some errors also. So column 0 not found, etc, etc. So we will see what that mapping in just a couple of minutes. I had to struggle a lot in order to complete this, but yeah, finally the job succeeded, and yes, the job is finally loaded the data into my workbench, that is into my database. And here you can see, if I just, let's just clear all of this, let's just clear all of this and go back, and here if I just select star from sales report dot events semicolon, and that's just to select this and then just run it, and perfect. What do we have? We have the data perfectly loaded from our S3 bucket file to our Amazon RDS MySql database, which is having a table called events, and inside the table the data has perfectly loaded. We have the date, we have the event, everything is ready. And as you can see, event id 1, venue id, date id, event name, some go-to-org, start time, etc. And you can exactly relate that to your AWS Glue Studio. Where was that? Yeah, AWS Glue Studio, visual, output schema, data preview. Yes, and as you can see, event id 1, the event name is Gota Damarang. The same row, you can see it in your database. So that means it has successfully loaded data from your file, which is in your S3 bucket, and now that data is in your table, which is in a database, which is an Amazon RDS type database. Now everything is on cloud. Your S3 bucket is in cloud, your database is in cloud, the table under which your database is, the table under which the table in which your your data has loaded is also in cloud. So now this is a complete cloud solution. Now when you have this, everything is ready. And similarly, I have also loaded, as events I have loaded, I have also loaded sales. So let's quickly go through that. Now one interesting fact is that yes, this is all fine, this is all working good, but what is happening at the back of all this job data integration? If you just go to script, you will see the script that is actually loading. So here you can see this is the script that has been auto generated, and here you can see we are using PySpark, AWS Glue, AWS Utils, AWS Transforms, etc. And in the arguments you are giving the job name, you are creating the from the Spark context. If you know Spark, you will know that Spark context is the entry point of your Spark job. To your Glue context, you are passing your Spark context, and then you are starting your Spark session, and then you have your job.init, and then we have the S3 bucket node, create dynamic frame options, and here you can see connection type as S3, format as CSV, etc, etc. The file, the transformation context is S3 bucket node 1, that is the name for our S3 first node step, and this is the script. And in the script you can see the mapping. Column 0 is going to event id, column 1 is going to venue id, etc. And at last, the sixth column, it's going to, that is column 5, it's going to start time, which is of date type, and the name of the node, apply mapping node 2, which is the name that we gave to our second node. And this is the script generated for node MySql. This is the most important step. Glue context dot write dynamic frame dot from catalog frame, database name, table name, transformation context, and job dot commit. That's it. And when you click on run here, this script will be invoked, and then this same script, you can see the status of that script running status. Here the execution time, etc. And when that finishes, the same script will load data to your database like this. Similarly, we also created another AWS Glue job. We will also see that. So we just do here jobs, and we have one more job, that is load sales data. So similarly S3 bucket, apply mapping, whereas this is a bit large data transformation. As you can see, we have a lot of columns here. If you just do view data confirm, yeah, it will take some time because this is quite a big file and you have a lot of data to load, so we'll just wait. Yeah, so this is just a sample file and we only have one row in this particular file. There you can see the file properties here, sales copy.txt. So this is a copy file which is having just one row. Yeah, so that we can see the data fast. So this is the data, and if you do all fields, you can select the all fields. You just click confirm and you can see sales ID, list ID, seller, buyer, event ID, which is from our previous job. So that is, it's having a foreign key mapping here for your information, which will be important for your data analytics queries, and the quantity sold and the price paid, etc. And in the target, you are going to select sales repo, and the output schema will be generated in the data preview. Definitely it's a database type, RDS type, so you will not be able to see preview, but however when you click on run, it will run the job. And here you see that my job has succeeded. I just ran it yesterday and it was running fine. It took 54 seconds and it had loaded the file, and it's not a cakewalk. I was also having some issues, like for example it stopped, it had shown some errors, etc, etc. I had to tackle them, and then finally I loaded that data, and now that data is inside my RDS database in the sales table. So as you can see, we did saw the sale ID 1, seller ID, buyer ID, price 728. We saw the same row here in our visual, in the transform, in the data preview, we saw the same things, right? $728. We have the same thing here in our workbench, 728. So this is just one row, but whereas this is a very big file, the original file is very big. This is having around 1,75,000 plus records. So yeah, it's a big file. So yeah, all the data we have just loaded, and when I just ran it, the whole file, and if you can see the runs, you will be able to see it here. Like it took around 3 minutes to seconds for me to load all those records. So yeah, so that is how you load it, and now you can do whatever you want to do in your data engineering task. You want to see, like for example, you want to see what is the top 10 events with highest number of tickets sold, with highest number of sales. So this is a query that I have ready all previously, and if I just execute this, and here you will be able to see the event ID, the event name, event start time, the sale ID, the event ID again from the sales table. The quantity sold is 85 tickets have been sold, and the total sales is approximately, and it's exactly 51,846 euros, and this is the total commission the selling company got. So these are the top 10 events with the highest number of total sales. This is the kind of data analytics you can do once you have your data into your RDS database. So that is about this exercise. Hope you had a great time and hope you have learned a lot of things. And for a quick summary, here we have seen S3 buckets, we have seen RDS, we have seen virtual private clouds in EC2, we have seen security groups in EC2, and we have seen the IAM roles. We have dealt with RDS, we have used the Amazon Glue. And one additional thing in VPC that I would like to want you to know is the first your VPC. This is my default VPC for this particular account. This is my virtual private cloud inside which all my AWS resources are there. My S3 bucket, my RDS, you name it, it's all there inside this VPC. So if you want to connect to them, you need to have access to this VPC. For that VPC, what did we do? We created a security group, RDS security group, for us to be able to connect to our database from our local machine. After that, we also have something called sub-routing tables and subnets. So these are the subnets that will get by default created in your default VPC. This is something you just need not worry about, it will be there. However, in the routing table is important, and endpoints. What does a VPC endpoint does? VPC endpoint establishes a connection URL between your AWS resources to read data. That means it is enabling the crawler to crawl data to your database, or it is enabling the glue to read data from your S3 bucket. All those kind of things can be possible once you create your AWS endpoint. And here you can see here my name is MySql RDS endpoint. So that means from Glue I want to connect to my RDS database. Okay, and here you can see this is my VPC endpoint, this is my VPC ID, and it's there in EU Central. And in the routing tables you have the routing table, and when you click a create endpoint, you will get an option to select your services. That is, you just gonna do S3, you want to select S3, and you have to ensure that you are selecting the gateway, not the interface. Select the gateway, VPC, your default VPC will come, and routing tables. Now what happens when you don't select a routing table? When you do not select a routing table, although your VPC endpoint will be created, however that will not help you in connecting your Glue to connect to your RDS database. So ensure that you click this checkbox, and then full access, just do full access and just straight away click on create endpoint. After you do that, you will have your endpoint created like this, and here in the details you can see this is the VPC ID and the name and the S3 bucket service name and the routing table. We have this, we have used it while creating our connection in this my connection edit, and here you can see VPC ID and subnet groups and etc. So here while creating your connections and while creating your crawlers, you can do edit crawler, next, IAM role. While doing this IAM role and while creating your connect, you need to have this endpoint. So we have seen, so in network and connectivity, what all do we have? We have our virtual private cloud, we have our security group, and then we have our endpoint, and the endpoint is having a routing table, which is this, a routing table. Okay, and by default the VPC will also have a set of subnets, so which is inbuilt functionality to have subnets, where you can choose which subnets you have to use while creating your connection. So that is, if you go to AWS Glue in connections, my connection edit, here you see security group, and this is the subnet that I have chosen. Basically all the subnets have access to the security group, so I just selected one subnet among the 3 that I have. So ensure that you also have your endpoint created while you are doing this data integration exercise on Amazon. So that is about it. Hope you all had a good time, and here we have seen loading data from our S3 bucket, that is from this particular place, to our RDS database using the AWS Glue Studio. So hope you had a good time, and here we all saw how to load data from our S3 buckets to our RDS database using AWS Glue, and how we have created these jobs and how these jobs have actually loaded data from our S3 bucket through the AWS Glue to our database, Amazon RDS database. So that is about this particular exercise. Hope you all had a great time, and we will see again. Thank you very much. Happy learning.